the volume.
Turn up the volume.
You've arrived at the destination for all things Kentucky. This is the Bleed Blue Network Podcast.
What is up, Big Blue Nation? It is KY Sass here, also known as Salena. I am with Coach Evans tonight because if you saw the tweet earlier, then you saw that Rando and his family are having another baby, a little girl. We're all very excited for them, obviously. So Vic and I are going to hold it down on the podcast, or try to at least. Vic, welcome to the show, and thank you for stepping in on a short notice. I really appreciate it.
Well, I'm just kind of happy that you even thought of me. You and Rando even thought of me, and yeah, big prayers up to Rando and more for Rando's wife. I mean, she's doing all the work. He just has to sit back here at the catcher's mitt and catch. But yeah. But thank you. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. And anytime I can sit in for Rando, or I'd be more than happy to do it. But definitely keeping them in my prayers. And I saw in his tweet he was talking about it being a girl, and he has sons, and he's already getting soft, and it really hit home to me. I'm a guy that grew up with all brothers. My cousins that were around my same age were all boys. I had a son, and then my son's first two babies were two granddaughters, and they have absolutely changed my life. So he's going to love having a little girl around, and congratulations to both of them, and I hope everybody's happy and healthy.
Yes, of course. All right. It has been a big week for UK sports this week. Obviously, there's some ups and downs, but first off, big shout out to the women's volleyball team for their 8th SEC championship. Crazy. I believe it's in a row too, Vic. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. But Coach Skinner has got that program absolutely rolling right now.
They are, winning the national championship a few years ago. I do believe you're right. It's 8 in a row. I love the tweet that you saw or you put out there where it was a Texas fan talking about how they're with a volleyball school, and thanks UK for holding it down till we get to the SEC. And I believe you bookmarked that one and then made sure that you put that out there and kind of laughed at it. But listen, I think we had this wrong. We were fighting a couple of years ago whether we're a basketball school, a football school. Let's just be honest. We're a girls' volleyball school.
We're a volleyball school at this point, right?
I'm all for it. I am all for it. And yeah, I mean, Coach Skinner's done an amazing job there, and I look for that team to make a really deep run in the NCAA tournament. It wouldn't shock me to see them bring home another national title.
Hey, listen, they are killing it consistently. So that's great. So let's talk about basketball. They did play Jackson State this week, and also Lipscomb after the week off from the Duke game. I thought they were for sure going to make a run at the 3-point made field goal record at Rupp against Jackson State. I thought they were going for it. But those are just two good games for them to kind of stay in rhythm. I do say though, assist is obviously great. Kobe Brea is ridiculous. Shooting 5 out of 8 and his percentage dropped is obscene and completely unheard of. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I didn't get to see much of the game. Of course, they got this game, and they also got Georgia State playing on Friday night, like right in the middle of Kentucky high school playoffs. So I was broadcasting a high school game and just kind of keeping up with the score. So I didn't get to see the game, but you're right. I mean, Kobe Brea is about as fun a guy to watch play. Him and Kirk Hish, they're both like, they have this bravado. They're not the best players on the team. I mean, you look at Jackson Robinson, it was nice to see them get him going. I was expecting him to have a big game because after the Duke game, I think it was just kind of get him going. But, how can you not like what Otega always doing right now? I mean, I don't think anybody knew when he was brought in as the transfer portal, this was going to be a guy that was going to be dominant. He gives them something this team doesn't have. We knew they were going to be able to shoot. Now, like you were talking about, Brea goes 5 of 8 and his percentage goes down. I mean, he's been unconscious. But Ortega gives him a guy that can get to the rack anytime he wants at times. And I love the way his physicality that he takes the ball to the rack. Really love his game. And, they got Western and then they got, Georgia State. I think this will be 2 more warm-ups where they play really well. And we just look forward to keep everybody sharp into the Louisville game.
Yeah. So speaking of Ortega, yes, he gets to the rim, but and I think I've talked about this before on the podcast, he does so many of the little things that aren't as noticed on a stat sheet, right? They're not as something that people aren't pointing out consistently, but he does it the entire game. I think, honestly, like some of it seems instinctual to where you don't have to coach it. He just has a feel for the game. But I will say he is much, much better than advertised, and much better than I thought that I think most people thought we were actually getting in him. He plays so hard, great defense. He's aggressive. He doesn't foul a lot, which is good too. Another one, Brandon Garrison. He is growing up right before our eyes. Like from the first game to the Duke game and the past 2 games, he has gotten so much better. He's getting more comfortable in the offense, more comfortable like within himself as well. I'm so excited to see kind of where he goes throughout the season. I'm hoping we get it back next year, but at this rate, I don't know, but hopefully so.
Yeah. It is clearly, there's a few that are like that, but I do think the game that he has is a game that probably be one that would maybe come back. It's just nice. I mean, I don't know if I've ever, I go all the way back to, watching Joe Hall coach and, then, you had, Eddie Sutton and then Patino and then, the whole list back to Hall. And I just don't know if I've ever seen a guy like Coach Pope completely win over a fan base in such a way in his first, 6 months or whatever it is on the job. And it's like he understands Kentucky basketball. He understands. And in a way, I think even Cal, when he first came to Kentucky, kind of loved the Big Blue Nation, but then he kind of grew tired of it. But I think Coach Pope literally, I think in the long run, kind of the guy's a absolute nerd. The guy's one of the smartest men in the world. He is. Like the talk he gave the other day where he was talking about how they have it down to the analytics of how many minutes each guy can give until their production comes down a little bit because they get tired. He's a nerd when it comes to the game of basketball. And I think he also is a nerd when it comes to the BBN. And he appreciates what it brings to. I've always said that UK basketball is bigger than any player, any coach. What makes UK basketball special is the BBN. And it's just so refreshing the way he handles that, how I think he's part of it in a way. Mm-hmm. And he understands, him saying things like, I made I worked out a deal with the coaches. We can wear this on the road, but, Rupp Arena is a special place and we wear a suit to Rupp Arena,
yes.
And it's things like that really have nothing to do with coaching, but it understands what the BBN and what you coach in UK basketball is about. And this team, the more you watch them play, the more they really grow on you. I was watching some highlights and watching when Travis Perry scored and Trent Noah got Trent Noah got his first bucket. Like the way that team celebrated that moment, it's just different. And it's different in a way that makes me almost feel like I'm watching like 1987, 86, 85 basketball with James Blackman and Ed Davender and Kenny Walker and Roger Harden. And basketball is not supposed to be that way in the NIL world and the transfer portal world and the go to pro early world. But it's almost, I think I joked on our show Live at 5, it's almost like we've taken Kentucky basketball and put it back into Pleasantville. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Pleasantville where it's black and white and then they start to come into color. And when it's black and white, every shot that anybody throws up goes in. It's almost like watching Kentucky basketball in 1950, the feelings you get from it. And it's just, it's very refreshing in this day and age.
1,000%. And you touched on a good point. Mark Pope is the coach, but he's also a member of the BBN. And that's what makes it special, right? Because even when he was at Utah State and BYU, he was still a Kentucky fan, right?
Yes.
He still loved the program, loved being part of the fan base. I think that's what makes it different is he understands, he played here obviously, right? Won championship here as a captain, but then he retained that fandom as he kind of went through his life until he got back here. I think this makes it so special is he gets it from so many other aspects. And again, like you said, smartest guy. I don't think I've ever heard a coach talk about neuroscience as pertaining to basketball before, but somehow he made it work, and it made sense in Mark Pope language, so it works.
Listen, you find so many coaches that they're not comfortable in their own skin sometimes, like they put on a facade. Mark Pope embraces his nerddom in the way he is and is entirely comfortable in his own skin. He understands, and you listen to him talk, and I think the whole family understands that. I mean, let's be honest, he outkicked his coverage when he married his wife. Everybody knows that, but he takes that and then jokes about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he understands who he is, and that's what makes him so likable.
I agree. I was not on board at first, as I don't think anybody was.
No.
We've talked about before, but he has 1,000% won me over, and I am back again, 10 toes down for my team. They're my boys, ride or die. So I'm happy to see where the rest of the season goes.
I was going to say, as much credit or as much blame and heck that we give Mitch Barnhart for the Cal contract and for the buyout for Pope right now, the guy hit 2 home runs when it comes to hiring basketball coaches on the men's side and on the women's side. Like, they have completely changed the direction of UK's men's and women's basketball team literally in 6 months.
Oh, 1,000%. Kenny Brooks is killing it. The girls are rolling right now. They're in Nashville this week, playing, I think, a tournament down there.
Yeah, they're playing at Trevecca Nazarenes, where they're playing that tournament in Nashville. I've been in that gym. Trevecca Nazarene was in Wesleyan. I do Kentucky Wesleyan basketball, who played UK. They were in their conference up until this year. They moved to a different conference. I think that gym holds like 700 people. So it's going to be, if you get some UK fans down there, it may hold a little more than that, but I mean, it's not much bigger than a high school gym. That could be because they're playing 2 ranked teams. That could be a crazy environment down there on the campus of Trevecca Nazarene. I want to go so bad.
Well, you're close enough, Vic. Why don't you just go?
Well, once again, I've got high school football and KWC basketball and other radio commitments I have to do, but I am going to try.
There you go. Speaking of contracts, and Mitch Barnhart, football played this weekend at Texas. As everyone saw, I had no faith in the offense. I really didn't. And to be fair, the offense didn't really score for 7 points. The 7 points came from the defense. I just don't. I don't know what's happened to Brock. He seems extremely uncomfortable in the pocket. It's like he's trying to play so fast and so far ahead of where he needs to that he's not reading things right. He's rushing things. I saw Styles put a video out today talking about, we always blame the O-line for everything, but in that particular play, he didn't have to move and leave the pocket, but he did. He chose to leave the pocket.
Right.
And so I don't know, Vic. I don't know what it is. Despite all of that, it is still Louisville Hate Week. L's down for life. Forever little brother. But I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well,
on Saturday.
You're right. There were some, first of all, I mean, you no faith in the offense. They have more turnovers than they score touchdowns in SEC play. So yes, you're right about that. Now, I'm like you. I saw the video out there, but here's the thing. When the offensive line has been so bad, and you saw this with when Tim Couch went to the Browns and they had 0 offensive line. You go back to there are times where your offensive line is so bad, you take so many hits, you play sped up, but then you also start feeling phantom pressure. And I think that's what Vandergrift is going in through right now, where even when it's blocked well, you are so trained in your mind, I've got to get it out in here because my line is so bad. And you start to see things and feel things that aren't there. And I think that's where Vandergrift is now. And I think that's why you see him at times, even when it's blocked well, kind of move in the pocket and run himself into trouble, where the tackle's kind of getting the guy, bumping him out, and you run like you're going to try to get out of the pocket and you run into pressure. Because I think he's he's that quarterback that's been punch drunk. He's been hit so many times. It's been so bad. Even when they do a good job, he feels phantom pressure now. The only thing that came good out of Texas I think we found our quarterback for the rest of these for the Louisville game and for next year. Like I think Pope's hands are tied, or not Pope. I think Stoops' hands are completely tied. Cutter BOLEY, who went 10 of 18, threw it for 160 yards, and I thought played really, really well. I don't think you can go into the Louisville game and not start him, which also means if you're going to do that, then you've pretty much got to ink him in as a starter next year, because I think what you'll see is Vandergrift go back into the portal. I don't think you can start BOLEY against Louisville and expect Vandergrift to come back and compete for the job. I think if you're starting BOLEY against Louisville, what that means is he's your quarterback for next year.
I would agree. I was impressed with Cutter BOLEY. First off, he can, granted it was quote unquote garbage minutes, right? It was whatever, but he threw dimes. Like those passes were on target. They were catchable for the most part, right? Just gotta fight for whatever. The one where I think he rolled right and then threw like across his body. Oh my god! Yeah,
and like put it in a window that was about the size of a teacup.
Right. Like how does a freshman throw that? Right. That's not a freshman play, right? Your typical freshman play. No, and I tweeted out like, BOLEY started for the rest of the year and next year going forward, like he has to be.
Right. And not only that, this will just be even if you start him, it's only his fourth game. So if you want to, he gets that year back as a redshirt because it would only be his fourth game. You're not going to a bowl game. And you say not a typical freshman throw. Think about this. Cutter BOLEY reclassified. He should be a senior in high school this year.
I know, that's terrifying to think about. Like,
right.
He's obviously good. Like he was obviously rated as high as he was for a reason. So I think you have to start him. And I think, moving forward, you have to build the offense around him and Wilcox for sure. Hopefully get Macklin back for another year. And then get him back for another year. And then get the offense rolling. I don't know what happened there to the offense. It's not great. It's ugly. But I think you have to move forward with those three for sure.
Yeah, it's been very disappointing. As much as I would like for you, me personally would like for UK to make a change at the coach. We all know what the buyout is, and I just don't see UK doing anything with that. Now, to me, Stoops is in a tight spot here because there's no way for me, Hamden, the offense has been so bad that you would think you got to change offensive coordinators. You've got to make big wholesale changes on your offensive staff. The problem is that Stoops has burned through a ton of offensive coordinators. So
this would be the sixth OC if he did. So yeah, right. It's too many.
Here's the thing too. I think part of this is you set down, like if Cutter BOLEY is your guy of the future, then you sit down with Cutter, because you got to, in this day and age of the transfer portal, and I'm not saying there is anything there, but I do think you have to sit down with your quarterback and say, hey, I'm looking at bringing this guy back. And not saying that this is the case, but I think you always have to, just like in the NFL, you got to be, the quarterback is the CEO in the NFL. He is the face of the franchise. Same thing in college. Cutter BOLEY, if he comes back as a starter next year, is the face of UK football. I don't know what the relationship between Cutter BOLEY and Butch Hamden is. I have no idea. But if it's not great, Mark Stoops better know that, because if that's going to be your quarterback, then he may make changes offensively. I do know this. I don't think there's any way you can bring the O-line coach back because his O-line was terrible at Alabama and it's been terrible this year. That's just me personally. If Stoops is back and it looks like all signs point that way, I do think you have to take the stock in yourself and make some changes in your offensive staff. And then, it'll be interesting to see. Brown's got another year. I wouldn't be surprised to see him leave. Who knows what Dane Key's going to do. It's going to be interesting on the whole offensive side of who moves in, who goes in the portal, who does what. And I think it's important for Stoops to get on top of that. And, it's going to be right after Louisville's going to be maybe the most important, month of the football season for next year will be the first month after the Louisville game.
No, I would agree. I was against him bringing back the O-line coach when he came back after he left the way he left. 100%. I tweeted about that. I was also thought I was stupid for saying that, but clearly he's not good at what he's doing, right? I think you start there, and I think, like you said, after the Louisville game, it has to be changes, and they have to be something that the fan base too will like. Okay, we see the vision, right? Because at this point in the season, like, the fan base is starting to turn. Like, starting to be like, okay, we're done. We're completely done with this. Like, we've NIL this and this and this, and we're supporting and we're selling out the stadium and we're doing all of this stuff, and then you give us whatever the season is, you have got to make immediate changes to win the fan base back at this point, I think.
100%. I think you're not just to win. I don't think that wins the fan base back, but you give some vision of hope of the future. If you just run it back next year with everybody and you look at what next year's schedule is, you know, where you know, I know you get Florida at home, you get Texas at home, you get Ole Miss at home. You know, it's a great home schedule, but all your toughest games are at home, but those are all games that you basically got blown out in, you know, except for, you know, the Georgia game. But do you expect, you know, I think it's actually Georgia's on the road. Georgia may be on the road.
Georgia on the road, yeah, because we played them at home this year. So
right.
Maybe on the road.
Do you expect to go down and play Georgia again 14-12? Like, you have to make some changes to at least provide hope and a vision that next year will be different. If you just run it all back, and, you know, let's say you're either going to finish 5-7 or 4-8. If you just run everything back and say, we just got to work harder, we got to grind, you know, put our nose to the grindstone. You know, what Coach Stoops says after every post-game show or every press conference, is there anybody in the Big Blue Nation that has any hope for next year? And it reminds me, and I hate him too. I think he's terrible. He's on my number one on my hot seat. You know, Brian Kelly at LSU. But if you think back at Notre Dame, I think it was around 2014. Notre Dame had a ton of injuries. I think they went 4-8. It was the one terrible year at Notre Dame. And Kelly made wholesale changes in his staff and said, and actually went outside his comfort zone for the, you know, because his staff for most of the years that he was at Cincinnati and he was at Central Michigan and Grand Valley State were all guys that he knew or coached with. And he completely changed the staff at Notre Dame. And then he went on a run where they won like 10 games in a row and, you know, and for like 4 or 5 seasons. And I think Stoops has did that thing. And I know the portal's great, but the one I know in the last couple of years, and they've had a lot of misses. Listen, if you're an offensive lineman and you're in the portal, that to me sometimes is a red flag. And I know a couple of times, hey, we got this guy from LSU who's transferred his offensive line. You know, offensive linemen are so important. If they're in the portal, they come with problems. I think the one problem I've had Kentucky the last couple of years has been the recruitment and development of offensive line. And that's where Schlarman was so good. And that's what we've missed more than anything. And I've yet to see anything out of the offensive line coach, either at Alabama or here, that shows me that he can recruit and develop offensive linemen. If we're having to go to the portal and get 3 starters, that's not the big blue wall, because it's hard to find 3 starters in the portal for anybody, more or less for Kentucky.
No, I agree with you. I've harped on that for a while too. It's I want to develop people. And I think I said a couple podcasts ago, we're no longer the big blue wall, right?
No.
We've lost that completely. You know, we might be chicken wire at the best sometimes. You know, I don't really know.
We are hollering after the dams broke. That's what we are. I mean, you know, in the last couple of years, there were a lot of holes, and we were trying to just barely plug them up, but we didn't fix it. Now the whole dam is broke and we're all underwater.
No, I agree. I think you fix your O-line for sure. I think that has to be one of your number one priorities. Just because if you don't have that, then you can't run a competent offense. But even if the O-line is 1,000% better, the play calling has to get better too. It's just
that too, and I think also some decisions and I know what is it what is it 6 times now we've had it 1st and goal inside the 5 and we haven't scored a point or something like something stupid, and you know, and I know sometimes hindsight's 20/20, but I don't know if anybody dislikes points sometimes. Like Mark Stoops used to be the guy who would never ever he was super conservative in his play calling, but now you've been so bad. Like that whole Texas game, if you kick 2 field goals late in the game, is a different ball game. It was a 1-score game. You know, where if you get a stop, you get the football back, you got a chance to win it. Like football coaches hate points sometimes. And I still think the game of football is the whole goal is to score more points than the other team. And when you've been so bad inside the 5-yard line, maybe it's okay to settle for a field goal every now and then.
Yeah, I agree.
Or if you're going to go for it, have an imaginable play call. Like what we do is we literally run the ball right up the middle with the worst offensive line in the country. You're right. Yeah. The play calling has been atrocious.
Yeah, I don't know of any other team that has been that close to the goal line that many times and come away with absolutely no points whatsoever.
No, we've got to be right up towards the top of the country.
I think I tweeted straight about the we were it was like 4.5 a yard, and we called some ridiculous play out of the shotgun, something like that.
Yes.
And I was like, I need somebody to explain to me like I'm 5 because this makes no sense to me. Like, we need half a yard, and we call a shotgun running play. Like, I make it make sense, please.
Listen, I have fought with and got into arguments with football coaches around here at the high school level and the college level, and in my broadcasting things, to have them try to make me understand why when you need half a yard, let's back up 3.5 yards to start.
Right.
And I've never understood that, and I don't know. Like I wish I knew, and I know we'll see what happens. I know Stoops, has made the comments out there in his post that, the offensive staff, the offensive coordinator will be back next year. I know he's in a tough spot where, listen, I never thought we'd get the day where we were all pining for Eddie Grand to be the offensive coordinator. That's where we are at Kentucky right now. And I never thought I would say that, but I got to ask you, as bad as it's been, it's Louisville Hate Week. How do you feel about this Louisville game? I mean, do you see them I'm not going to ask you to predict the score yet. I know y'all do that later on, but do you feel confident with Louisville coming into Kroger Field? Are you nervous? Are you apprehensive? Or have you gotten to the point that you just don't, I don't know.
I am nervous as hell, to be fair. Again, I think if you start Cutter BOLEY, I like the offense better. The offense was moving when he was in the game. Like, it flowed better. It moved. It looked like an actual offense. Like, plays were made. If you start him, then I am feeling much better. Our defense has been good all year for the most part, right? Like, the Texas game, they kind of, they gave up the field, just kept running. They ran in our throats for like 14 something plays, something stupid like that. But that last drive, they kind of stole their soul. They were, I think, they were tired. That's what I'm saying. They were tired, and that was what that was. Defense, I think we can hold on to stuff, not a problem. It's the offense that I'm worried about. Can the offense score enough points? Like I said, at Texas, if the defense hadn't had a pick six, the offense only would have put up 7 that game. You have to score win with that to win. Like, you just have to. Like, it is what it is. I think, what was that stat that Corey Price put out about something about we haven't scored over 21 points, something like that, in the entire season, like in the SEC or something
we haven't
stupidly
scored,
embarrassing.
Is it 20 or 21? I mean, they're there for, I think maybe the one game we scored 20 was the first time we had scored 20 all year long. Here's two things that had me very apprehensive. I'm like you. I think if you start Cutter, it gives you the best shot to win. We'll see. One thing is, you force, in this game, for some reason, backup quarterbacks seem to deliver the game of their life. And it's usually been the Louisville quarterback, but you never know. But the two things that had me apprehensive is, for years with Stoops, the one thing I give Stoops 100% credit for is he has made this game be the most important game on the schedule for the fans. And for I think for a lot of years that maybe was not the case, before he got here. As I'm a monster Notre Dame fan, and then I'm a Kentucky fan. But if Kentucky and Notre Dame were playing each other, I would want Notre Dame to beat them by 50. I grew up, from a big Catholic family. I didn't know anybody else played football until I was 17, other than Notre Dame. And but the thing about Stoops, I was never a big Governor's Cup guy, but he has made this game important. So, but I do think Brom coming in, this game means something to him, and he's starting to change that on the Louisville side. So, when Satterfield was there, I never had to worry about Louisville making this game be important. He just, it was Satterfield. I mean, he's blowing up Cincinnati now after he destroyed Louisville. The other thing is, if you look at the last 5 games where UK has won and dominated, it has been dominated by the big blue wall.
Yes.
Whether it was Lynn Bowden, who was playing quarterback that just ran it all the time and, basically ran it down their throat. Here, we're going to run this one play, stop it. And Louisville couldn't. That is where Kentucky has dominated Louisville in all 5 games of those. And I'm not sure this team can dominate me, you, and Rando's new baby girl blocking us.
Those are strong words, Vic.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, let's do this. I will say this, that I am very cautiously optimistic because it is Louisville. And the team always performs their best, it seems like.
They do.
In this game.
They do. And plus you get Weaver back. He played against Texas. This game, will, I think it helps your defense more. I know right now I think the early line is Louisville is a 3.5-point favorite, but they've been favored in 4 of the last 5 times we've played. Like Vegas, for some reason, loves to give Kentucky points against Louisville. It's been easy money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so sure it's quite as easy money as it's been for the last 5 years this year. I do think, Louisville's secondary will give up big plays. Mm-hmm. If the offensive line can give Cutter BOLEY time, I think this could be a game that Brown, Dankey, the tight ends, and Cutter BOLEY could really have a monster game. I'm just not confident that the offensive line can give them time. That's what's got me worried.
Yeah, I would also throw Jamar Macklin in there. Listen, that guy, every time throwing the ball, he makes a play. Every time. Like, he has been so disgustingly underused this season. It is ridiculous. And I think Wilcox could have a big game too. I think if we let him run, I can see him having some crazy long plays and get some points on the board for us. But again, I guess we'll find out, right? So basketball games this week and then football game, and we'll see.
That's a big, you got Western, you got, then you got the game on Friday night, and then you got Louisville. I mean, it ought to be a lot of fun. I will say this. I've been saying this we were talking about the offensive coordinator. People talk about, Vince Morrow being an unbelievable recruiter. Listen, he's not given enough credit because he's the only guy I know that every year can get these 4-star tight ends to come in, and we never throw them the football. Just turn the tight ends loose for one time.
Please,
we have some unbelievable tight ends in the last 10 years. They get 2 catches a year.
Yes, I agree.
Use Caddis and use these guys, and I'm hoping maybe they'll do that with BOLEY. I keep saying that, and I keep crossing my fingers, but we don't use the tight ends, and I think that's a weakness that Louisville's had, and so I think this could be a huge tight end game if we ever decide to throw it to them.
I agree with you. Randy and I have been high on tight ends all year. Caddis, Rodriguez, we have been please use them. Please throw them the ball in the offense. Because when they do, good things happen, right?
All the time. Every
time the tight end is targeted, good things happen. You would think that that's something, oh, shit, it worked. Let's just keep trying it again. But that's not the case so far. Like I said.
No, I was hoping maybe trying to guard Brock Byers last year from Georgia, it would hit Stoops in the head and go, whoa. I mean, you can throw it to that position.
Right?
And he's an All-American. And, I mean, he's a mismatched nightmare. Yeah, we've had some of those over the last few years. We just decided not to use them. Now, some of it this year is your offensive line is so bad, you have to keep your tight ends that make them help block.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, this has been a continual thing at UK.
1,000%. It has. It's been something that I think the fan base has questioned for a while as to why tight ends aren't used more. And that's spanning multiple OCs too, right?
Yes.
That's spanning multiple OCs to where tight ends are grossly underused.
Well, and I know people listen, and I don't know what's going to happen with the OC, and I will say this. I know, Butch has got, Hamden's got a lot of flack on social media and in sports talk radio, and it's understandable.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, if you look through the tight end or the OCs that we've had, okay, and they were all super successful where they were and what they've done before Kentucky. Even, our offensive coordinator last year that took or 2 years ago that took over for, when Cohen left the first time, you talk to NFL people and this guy was the quarterback whisperer. I mean, this guy was a offensive genius.
Mm-hmm.
Now it was terrible here at UK, but back, he's back coaching again and will be, but all of them were very successful everywhere they'd been before UK. And they're all very successful after UK. Cohen's tearing it up again. Dawson's down at Miami, has them in the playoffs. I mean, Neil Brown's offense is taking off, and it was kind of stagnant. Now, he was here early in the Stoops year where he had not a lot of talent. But so if they were all successful before UK and they're all successful where they went after the unsuccessful job at UK and the offensive coordinator, there's kind of one common denominator. Like, in this day and age, and I understand Stoops, but in this day and age, to me, I look at it like, I don't want us to be the Iowa of the SEC because you can't win in the SEC. And Iowa, you can't win at the ultimate level playing that way. Can you go 6-6, 7-5, and beat the teams you're supposed to beat? The 3 wins every year on your schedule. Yes, but are you going to beat your Georgias? Are you going to beat your Texases? Are you going to beat your? And you're going to have to play these teams because you're going to play them twice every 4 years. How it works. Are you going to go down and beat? Nick Saban changed what he did offensively. You didn't see whenever he was at the end of his Alabama career, he wasn't winning. He wasn't playing games that were 9-3 against LSU. No, they were outscoring you. They were going to get the best wide receivers, quarterbacks that could run, throw the football. And they were, he went and got the best offensive coordinators and turned them loose. For years it was, we pound and ground and pound you. We got Derrick Henry and we'll tackle you and we'll win the game 21-17. Every rule change in football now favors the offense. You do not win games anymore 17-14. You just don't. No. Like, you're not going to have a Baltimore Ravens team that was led by Ray Lewis and had Trent Dilfer, and they just tried to score 10 points a game, and they're going to beat you 10-7 and they win a Super Bowl. You can't win that way in the NFL, and you can't win that way in college anymore. And I just look at it. Yes, I want it. And I know, you listen to Stoops. I don't say anything in the offense. The offensive coordinator has all the keys to the kingdom. But everybody has struggled offensively here, and so that makes me wonder, do they really have the keys to the kingdom? And I think that's one thing that I think would really help is, these guys were successful where they were before. When they get here, let them be them and turn it loose, and let's see how that would work.
Yeah, I think that's a question that has floated around BBN for a while. Why? Like, we bring them in, or like BBN's so excited, and then what we're started for doesn't show up on the field, and then it's like, okay, is it the players? Is it the coaching? Like something's different, as you touched about, and they leave and like, oh shit, they're doing good again. Like, what's common denominator? And I agree. It needs to be a philosophy change, an adaptation to the current state of the game. Because like you said, it's all about how many times can you throw the ball in the end zone, essentially.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys early, when you had a guy that was a 5-star recruit coming, just lost out the job at Georgia, and he transfers here, you got Barry and Brown, who you keep, Dane Key, guys that are big time. There is no way, if I told you before this year started, Salena, there's no way if I told you we would have more turnovers than touchdowns in the SEC. If I had told you that on August 20th, you would have laughed at me.
1,000%.
I mean, this was, and there's something, there's just something off because I know the offensive line has a lot to do with it, but, you can make the case that this is the best we've ever been at UK in the skill positions. And here we are, 5-7, and we've scored, as you said, we've scored 8 touchdowns in our 8 SEC games.
Yeah.
I just don't think anybody would have believed that before back in fall, in summer camp.
No one would have. They would have been like, you're crazy. There's no way. There's no way the offense is going to be that terrible. There's no way we're going to lose the games that we've lost. Like 1,000, yes, that never, like I said, would have been laughed at, laughing stock of BBN. Like, we've had memes made for it. But here we are, one game left the season, and we are, 4-7 at the moment? 4-6, something terrible.
Yeah, 5, we are, 4-7.
Like, and it's just like, what happened? But one game left in the season against little brother. It is at Kroger Field. So I do expect BBN, even as disappointed as we have been, I do expect BBN to show up for that game because it is against Louisville.
Oh, 100%.
And anytime we get to clown Louisville or make fun of them, well, this is clowning, isn't it? Whatever, we show up and show out. So I'm curious to see how what this week's changes will happen with the offense as far as if, they're going to start Cutter or not. And don't forget the boys basketball playing this week. The girls are playing this week. Otherwise, it's rolling. It's a good time to be a Wildcat fan.
It is. How bad do you think UK beats Western?
Ooh, I would say by at least 25.
I'm going to go.
So much faith in the offense. I have so much faith in the ability for them to score points. It's just so. Oh,
there's no doubt. I think I think this is actually. I think Western has been disappointing. Of course, they lost their coach. He took a new job, and then they hired the assistant. They've been very disappointed in my opinion. I think this game gets out of hand. I think this game's like 99-62.
Okay.
I think UK absolutely rolls the Hilltoppers. And I know that there was no way that, that they were going to keep their coach from last year with the job he did there. But I think this game gets ugly, and I think it gets ugly pretty quickly.
I'm here for it. I love it.
Always.
I love it. I love it. Again, Vic, thank you for joining me today on the podcast. Last minute notice. I really, really appreciate it. BBN, make sure to check it out on all podcast platforms when it drops. And Vic, where can I find you at on the X machine?
I am at Coach Evans 1973. And then you can also find me on 102.7 The Game Monday through Friday. We have our show live at 5 from 5 p.m. Central Standard Time to 6. And if you you can also follow 102.7 The Game, ESPN Owensboro on the X machine, and we've got our Listen Live tab every show out there, and we've got a lot of great shows that are really interesting. So yeah, give it a listen, and thank you and for letting me join you. I can't hang with you and Rando very often, but it's always fun when I get to.
Of course it is. We'll have to have you back on again. And as always, BBN, go Cats.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Bleed Blue Network podcast. We hope you enjoyed diving deep into the world of Kentucky sports with us. Don't forget to stay connected by following us on Twitter at BleedBNation. Your feedback means the world to us. So take a moment to leave a review. Not only does it help us improve, but it also helps others discover the show. Until next time, keep cheering, keep listening, and keep bleeding blue.